Okay. Right, I think we're sorted. I just want to quickly boil the kettle, make a tea. Um, so I've been out for ages, guys. Out, up. Cup of tea. We need a cup of tea. Do 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 do. Okay, let's make a tea. Tea for two. Right, kettle boiling, guys. So I've been out all day with my brother. I had a nice time, actually. I also went and visited my mum, my lovely mother. She seems well. So I thought, come home, have a nice cup of tea, and right. So just got to find enough money. I've got a lot of food here. But just yes, hot with the honey. Honey. Just trying to find enough honey, guys. Honey. What's she getting with honey? I do like a bit of honey in my tea. Tell them about the honey, mommy. Okay. All right, guys. Kettle is more or less boiled. Tell you what, the weather in the UK is perfect. Perfect. Okay, that'll do. Hi guys, sorry about that. So my wife will be here soon. Can everyone hear me okay? My wife will be here soon. She's going to phone me and message me because she wants me to. She's giving me instructions on how to cook the food. She's made a pork, hot roast pork thing and some veg and potatoes, and I have to do as I'm told. But England is crazy hot. So I'm going to do what I did yesterday. Welcome to Elvis Presley Long Lost Footage, and I'm going to play a load of shorts whilst doing as I'm told, as my wife rings me and messages me. I haven't had a chance to tell him we're live, so I'm very just going to just say on our chat that we're live. Let's have a look. I'm just going to put it on my Facebook and on the Defending Elvis Facebook page. Please join it. It has over 10,000 members. We're getting on to 11,000 members now. Okay. Let's just... Right, guys. Okay, right. Woo. So how is everyone? We've got Teresa, Deborah. I'm going to play some shorts, and at the same time, I'm going to tell people we're live. But just out of interest, guys, what did you think of my live streams today? Obviously, we were discussing Elvis Fans Matters video. We're discussing the Smiths, a bit of Priscilla, a bit of the Memphis Mafia. What did you think, guys? What did you think? Do you think it's right that we discuss these topics, obviously concerning the things in this book, the questions that are being asked on EFM? Do you think that's okay? Because I know that some people think it's sacrilegious to mention these topics. What do you think, guys? Is it the right thing to do, or do you think we should just leave it alone and not talk about it? I'm interested to know Team Elvis's how they feel, because do you think we should just stay away from these topics. Be honest with me, guys. Tell me what you think. Right, so I'm going to try and just find some old shorts. We played a load yesterday. Where are we?
Let her tell what she thought.
So let's see if I can find my shorts. We're going to go by the popular ones. We already played a load yesterday, so I'm going to scan through. I'm just going to click on any one, and we'll go from there. Do you remember yesterday we played I think the last one we did was all right. So let's go on. Right, so we're going to click on this one. Priscilla Presley, was Elvis a difficult husband? Was Elvis a difficult husband?
Ask me if I
Well, it was around Christmas, and Elvis was really, really excited that night and very enthusiastic, and I thought that it was basically because he always loved giving gifts, and it was a really happy time. And he had something behind his back. He wouldn't let me see. He goes, okay, I want you to close your eyes. And he got on his knees, and he says, I want you to open this. And then I open up the box, and it was this beautiful, beautiful engagement ring and wedding band and a ring with diamonds all over. And I was absolutely shocked. You know, it's time for us to get married, he said, you know, and it was like just sweetness all over. And we hugged, and when I came down, he was showing my hand to everybody. And he was just really happy. And that's when we basically made our announcement that night.
Well, it was about time, right?
Yes, that's she could.
But 21 was a good age to get married.
Yeah.
You know?
ask me if I
You're married, and almost a year later you have a baby, right?
Yes, my daughter.
First, what kind of husband was
Yes, my daughter.
Elvis?
He was wonderfully loving, caring. He was a product of the business, and that was his only way of life. He loved it. He, he traveled all over before he was even really discovered by Colonel Parker, and had venues that he would appear at.
So that made it difficult as a husband in what way? A lot of women around him, obviously.
All the time.
How'd you handle that?
Very difficult.
Get ticked?
Yes. I mean, to be put in that position of admiration, I think it would be very difficult for any woman. It really was all about Elvis, in every way, in every move, in every situation.
Let me just pause that a minute. How do do you have a point of view on that, guys? I see it a bit different. I really do feel that Priscilla plays herself as the victim, like, oh, look what I went through. Elvis was loved by everyone. Elvis was admired and wanted by everyone, and poor me, was in the middle of all that. But Priscilla had her own thing going on. This is what doesn't come across in these Larry King interviews. Priscilla doesn't say what she was up to, the things that she did that was wrong, that she was being unfaithful. She had her eye on men, money, ambitions of the future, a career, modeling, acting, being on TV, being in tabloids, being in magazines. She didn't let on that she wanted to be an entrepreneur, a businesswoman. So very, very much, oh, poor me, look what I went through. Isn't that the whole point of Priscilla reinventing herself in the book Elvis and Me? Wasn't that the point of it, to win over public affection? Because the public in the 70s, after Priscilla walked out on Elvis and ran off with Mike Stone, she had a very public relationship with Mike Stone. Priscilla then goes into a new mode of creating a new Priscilla through this version of events that she wrote, her version of history, a reinvention of history. So do you get what I'm saying, guys? These interviews are very good at slowly massaging the public around the world in thinking, oh, look what I went through. This is one of the later interviews, but it's beside the point. I personally think it's very unfair to Elvis that how he's always portrayed as the bad guy. and she's the good guy. It ain't true. It ain't true. They both made mistakes.
Was Elvis the great love of your life?
Yes, he was.
Is there one song that Elvis...
So come on, was Elvis the great love of your life? Now this will get a big reaction, won't it, guys? I'm just getting your comments up on here. This is going to get a big reaction. So hi everyone, thanks for joining. Come on, we know that Elvis was not the great love of her life. She was with Garibaldi for over 20 years. She was with Michael Edwards, the abuser, the alleged abuser. I always show his book, I can't see it. You know, we want justice for Lisa Marie. Priscilla's boyfriend allegedly abused Lisa Marie. We want justice, but he even admits it in his book, Priscilla and Me. 1 second. I'll just press play and I've got to answer the phone for my wife. Hello?
Elvis sang, which resonates most with you?
That's a hard question. That's the hardest one you've asked me. Gosh, probably It's Now or Never, because I heard him sing that in Germany, actually. And that was given to him through the record label. To watch him sing the song and try to reach the notes in perfection is what he was looking for, to perfect those notes, because his tone, his pitch was not as high in that particular song. So he would always try to reach it and mess up and then hit his leg and try it again and again and again. So watching him kind of rehearse and trying to get it right was an experience.
Was Elvis the great love of your life?
Yes, he was.
Is there one song that Elvis sang which resonates most with you?
That's a hard question. That's the hardest one you've asked me. Gosh, probably It's Now or Never, because I heard him sing that in Germany, actually. And that was given to him through the record label. To watch him sing the song and try to reach the notes in perfection is what he was looking for, to perfect those notes, because his tone, his pitch.
Did you and the King ever get it on?
I wish I could say yes, but no.
Oh, really?
No.
I heard that you romanced each other back around 1968.
You did? Ooh, that's neat. No, didn't happen.
How come? No chemistry?
It does sound like a flat
When I met him, I was 19 and engaged to Tommy Sands, and when we did the film, he was married and pregnant.
I don't get to meet that many people who knew Elvis.
You mean, did we sleep together? I could bring it up because it didn't happen. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. He was a great kisser.
He was a good kisser?
Yeah.
The King could kiss. We all know that. I've seen the movies. You can tell that in the movies, yeah. But what was he like as a person? You know, so he's a good kisser.
Funny and sweet and fidgety. He would always be moving, either his foot.
That's my
and he smoked these long
cigarellos.
Yeah.
Cigarellos. I've seen pictures of him smoking those.
Yeah.
Did you and the King ever get it on?
Yes, but I also was confused because I was so...
Right, guys, sorry about this. I got to quickly do something. I'll keep playing on this, and then I'll come back.
upset, and the pandemonium that happened after was a little bit confusing.
For the first time, you're actually going to participate in the candlelight vigil?
Yes.
Why?
It just seems like it's the right time.
When you come here and you see now on the 35th anniversary, I mean, there are just masses of people outside for candlelight vigil. Are you somewhat struck with awe that people still decades later come here to honor Elvis this way?
Absolutely. I mean, that's the force of Elvis. And I remember Elvis saying that he didn't really know, if he gave up singing, if he did want to retire. He felt that people would forget him. And to see this every year.
Yes, but I also was confused because I was so upset, and the pandemonium that happened after was a little bit confusing.
For the first time, you're actually going to participate in the candlelight vigil?
Yes.
Why?
Guys, I'm really sorry. My wife has told me I've got to boil the potatoes, put the carrots in the oven, put the stuffing in the oven, but at the same time I've got to heat up the thing that the potatoes are going in and put hot oil for the potatoes to go in. Yeah, so I'm trying to cook and talk to you guys. Quite funny, really, but let's keep going.
Ginger came on the scene. Ginger Alder. Ginger is a very pretty woman, and she was young. Here's a 22-year-old that's got a lifestyle that she likes, and here's a 42-year-old that done everything in the world and not too much interested him anymore. She acts like she don't want to be around sometimes. I said, Ginger likes showing you off. The fact that she's going with you, she wants her family to meet you, her friends to meet you, and she enjoys nightclubs, pool parties. In order to hold her, you've got to go to her lifestyle and not so much expect her to do all yours. Experienced a whole year of him and Ginger, and I am sick to the bone of it. And I told my wife, I said, I am sick of it. I said, I wish he would ditch her, get somebody else. I said, but nothing you say seems to change his mind. I've just about had it. I said, I just can't handle it. She said, look, I never will forget that because it stood out. She said, just bear with him. She said, because, you know, we might not have him long. Ginger came on the scene.
He had asked me to move into Graceland, but I never did, and he said, I respect you for that. I just didn't at the time. It wasn't my way. I was up there pretty much every day, and I just think the portrayal, the image of him, you know, has been really unfair. And you know, Elvis was not someone sitting up and gorging on. He could be compulsive sometimes when eating certain foods, but this image, I never once saw him eat a fried peanut butter, the famous fried peanut butter and banana sandwiches. I never once saw that.
So I guess your biggest concern has been that he's been defined by those final months of his life, and you're saying that what people perceived was his life really was not the reality.
He was never bored. He didn't act down. We laughed. We watched television. He played the organ in his room. Sometimes we went out. We rode three-wheels. He had these great fun three-wheelers.
You still miss him?
Yeah, of course. I miss that we didn't get to see where he was going to go and hear more of his music. He had a lot left to do. He had asked me to.
I was relieved the reporters didn't ask me about my mother.
Elvis, do the other soldiers give you a rough time because you're famous?
No, sir, I was very surprised. I've never met a better group of boys in my life. They probably would have if it'd been like everybody thought. I mean, everybody thought I wouldn't have to work and I would be given special treatment and this and that. But when they looked around and saw I was on KP and I was pulling guard and everything just like they were.
Elvis, what do you think about going to Germany?
Well, sir, I'm kind of looking forward to it. I mean, just before I came in the Army, we were planning a tour of Europe. And I got quite a bit of mail from over there and everything, you know, and I'm kind of looking forward to it, really.
I was relieved the reporters didn't ask me about my mother.
Elvis, do the other soldiers give you a rough time because you're famous?
No, sir, I was very surprised. I've never met a better group of boys in my life. They probably would have.
Was there still love between Elvis and Priscilla?
One of the impressive photographs that were taken when they left the courthouse, here are two people getting a divorce, and they leave hand in hand. Speaks well for what they felt towards one another.
I think it was easier. I think the pressure was off.
He would come over and visit the house.
So guys, I'm going to play this a couple of times because I don't agree with a few bits on this. You guys are going to have opinions on that. This short, I remember making this short. You know, you got Jerry Schilling, who I think does support Priscilla too much. I don't think Jerry Schilling has been a good friend to Elvis in this clip. Now, he has been a good friend to Elvis. We know Elvis bought him a home. We know Jerry Schilling loved Priscilla. But in this clip, where he's sort of going, yeah, you know, they were better apart, you know, the pressure was off. You know, where you've got Priscilla's dad saying, oh yeah, you know, everything was better. They were still friends when they divorced. I don't like any of it. It all feels uncomfortable to me.
And come at all ungodly hours of the night and spent a lot of time with us.
Just coming over unannounced and waking me up and coming in and wanting to shoot my mom's dog because he was barking at him and them talking, you know, in the middle of the night all night long.
He used to do that quite often. Go to the house and call her up and...
Do we love that? Elvis coming late at night to visit Priscilla, making a joke about the dog, waking up Lisa so he could be with her. Elvis loved being with Lisa, didn't he? Love all that.
Say, I'm coming over. He just couldn't let go.
This is actually after we had separated, and I brought Lisa to Vegas, and I was sitting in the audience at one of the booths, and he looked over, and he very rarely, you know, dedicated songs at all. But he looked over and he mouthed, "This is for you."
I don't think that...
Is that true? Is that true, guys? Does anyone believe that? So this is sad. I think, wasn't this the preparations that were being made ready for burying poor Lisa Marie? God rest her soul. It's a bit sad, this one, guys. Obviously heartbreaking, guys. They're actually digging poor Lisa Marie's grave. Horrible. But I remember when this was released.
If they ever thought that this place would become such a sacred place for Elvis fans.
No, never. I mean, when we opened it in '82, we had no idea that we'd have maybe some visitors, but not to this extent. I mean, I was told that Elvis passed and that, you know, he'll be forgotten the next couple of years and life goes on.
I'm always really happy when I'm here. It always reminds me of when I was the happiest, I think, in my life.
This is touching, isn't it? And she doesn't look right, does she, Lisa? She looks very sad. She just says, I'm always happiest when I'm here.
So, and it, you know, it always just brings me right there when I come back.
And Priscilla, in an interview, I believe you said when you were talking about Graceland coming here that you feel like Elvis is going to come down the stairs any minute. So do you feel his presence here throughout still?
Absolutely. I've always said that. You feel that this is so much a part of him, this home. He loved this home. He always came back here, no matter what. His presence is just all around, going into each room. He's sitting here, you know, sitting and talking or playing the piano.
She was at the airport when I left. And, there were some pictures made of her.
On the way to the airport, we were very quiet, and he would tell me not to worry, and he would stay in touch with me. A lot of obligations that he had to tend to, and that it may be a while, you know, that he would hear from me, but he would get back to me, and he gave me his jacket. And he told me to keep it in a safe place for him, to wear it, you know, and think of him. I remember the bombardment of photographers following me to the airport, and he told me that when we got out of the car, he would stand up at the top of the stair of the plane, and he'd look for me, and he wanted me to wave, and he said he wanted me to be happy, and he said the last thing he wanted to do was see any sad faces of me, you know, in the press. So that was really hard because I really didn't know if I would really ever see him again. I mean, here he was going off back to making movies, and, you know, I was the girl he left behind. You know, a lot of doubt goes in your mind at that time.
Guys, that isn't straightforward. She wasn't the girl he left behind. You know that Elvis was seeing other women in Germany, at least 3 other women. He wasn't seeing Priscilla. They were just friends. She wasn't the girl he left behind. I know he says, oh, I met this little girl. He doesn't say she's his girlfriend. The other thing is, some say, you know, the whole waving at the aeroplane, you know, Elvis at the top of the aeroplane stands, turns around and waves. Some say that Priscilla wasn't even there when that happened. but there was two separate locations. I don't know if that's true. What do you think? Put it in the comments, guys. But she does like to remember she was 14. They briefly met, maximum 6 months. They had a brief friendship. Yeah. Remember, in the 1950s, it was completely normal for men in their 20s to marry teenagers. It's completely normal then. It's unacceptable now, but then it was very normal. But what I'm trying to say is Elvis wasn't with her. They were just friends. That's all they were. She was a fan, like thousands and thousands of fans that obviously admired and adored the rock and roll stars of the days in the 50s and 60s. My point is, she likes to talk about Elvis as if, oh, actually, at the time we were boyfriend, girlfriend, and Elvis left me behind. That isn't what happened. Elvis was still with Anita Wood. Elvis went back to Germany in 1960, filmed GI Blues, did the Frank Sinatra special, etc. You know, made some records with RCA Victor. But he had his whole life mapped out by the Colonel Tom Parker, and he was still seeing other people, including Anita Wood. But she talks as if they were still together. They weren't still together, guys. Let's play it again.
She was at the airport when I left, and there were some pictures made of her.
On the way to the airport, we were very quiet, and he would tell me not to worry, and he would stay in touch with me. A lot of obligations that he had to tend to, and that it may be a while, you know, that he would hear from me, but he would get back to me, and he gave me his jacket, and he told me to keep it in a safe place for him, to wear it, you know, and think of him. I remember the bombardment of photographers following me to the airport, and he told me that when we got out of the car, he would stand up at the top of the stair of the plane, and he'd look for me, and he wanted me to wave, and he said he wanted me to be happy, and he said the last thing he wanted to do was see any sad faces of me, you know, in the press. So that was really hard because I really didn't know if I would really ever see him again. I mean, here he was going off back to making movies, and, you know, I was the girl he left behind.
I'm not convinced, guys. You know, I didn't know the truth. I wasn't there. I don't think Elvis saw Priscilla as his girlfriend. I think they had a close friendship at best. We don't really know what went on, but it's not as simple as she makes out, guys.
Rosemary Altia Twitter asked, do you still feel his presence?
I do, especially when I go to Graceland. Absolutely, I do. His spirit is there. When I walk in those doors, I can hear his laughter. I can feel his spirit walking down the stairs. And I'm not the only one who feels that way. It's
his presence.
Yes, I do. Mm-hmm.
Rosemary Altia Twitter asked, do you still feel his presence?
I do, especially when I go to Graceland. Absolutely, I do. His spirit is there. When I walk in those doors, I can hear his laughter. I can feel his spirit walking down the stairs. And I'm not the only one who feels that way. It's
his presence.
Yes, I do. Mm-hmm.
Rosemary Altia Twitter asked, do you still feel his presence?
I do, especially when I go to Graceland. Absolutely, I do. His spirit is there. When I walk in those doors, I can hear his laughter. I can feel his spirit walking down the stairs. And I'm not the only one who feels that way. It's
his presence.
Yes, I do. Mm-hmm.
Rosemary Altia Twitter asked, do you still feel his presence?
I do, especially when I go to Graceland. Absolutely, I do. His spirit is there. When I walk in those doors, I can hear his laughter. I can feel his spirit walking down the stairs. And I'm not the only one who feels that way. It's
his presence.
Yes, I do. Mm-hmm.
Rosemary Altia Twitter asked, do you still feel his presence?
I do, especially when I go to Graceland. Absolutely, I do. His spirit is there. When I walk in those doors, I can hear his laughter. I can feel his spirit walking down the stairs. And I'm not the only one who feels that way. It's
his presence.
Yes, I do. Mm-hmm.
Rosemary Altia Twitter asked, do you still feel his presence?
I do, especially when I go to Graceland. Absolutely.
Oh, that's so funny that I'm trying to cook while I talk to you guys. So I've just put the potatoes in, oil on them, salt on them. I've just put the carrots in. I've just put the stuffing in. and there's a few other bits happening. The broccoli, other stuff as well. I'm doing it, man. I'm doing it. Let's go to the next one.
Well, he lived his life out of the public eye. So when everybody else was up going to work and doing whatever they did in the daytime, we were sleeping. And then we would wake up at 9 o'clock at night. I mean, and after a few years...
Have breakfast at 9 o'clock?
Oh, we have breakfast at 9, 10 o'clock at night. Be up all night, rent movie theaters, watch movies, do whatever we did all night. And the next morning...
He was loyal to his friends, right?
Very loyal to his
So
friends.
was he going through weight cycles then?
Yeah, he always battled his weight. I mean, even when he was... Loved to eat, what Southerner doesn't, we...
So, typical Larry King, yeah? Larry King just makes me laugh, right? Oh, is he putting on weight? Is he putting on weight? He's like, Larry King is going, he wants some juicy gossip. So he's got poor Linda Thompson there, who wants to say some quite nice, loving stories of Elvis, her time with him. But all Larry is interested in is, let's make Elvis out to be some kind of fat druggie. Larry wants the juicy gossip, so he gets the views on his show. I'm not happy with Larry in these interviews. He really does push for the horrible information. Linda Thompson, she's probably being paid to be there, I'm guessing. I like Linda Thompson. I am a fan of Linda Thompson, but she has said things I wish she didn't in her book and in interviews. But I am a big fan of Linda Thompson. Linda, if you ever watch me, I'm a big fan of yours, okay?
We structure our social life.
Did it bother him when he got heavy?
It did bother him, and the criticism bothered him. He was a very sensitive, acutely sensitive person to other people's perceptions of him, and it did hurt his feelings a lot.
Were you inseparable those 4 years?
We were.
Would you say you didn't see other guys, he didn't see other girls?
I certainly didn't see any other guys.
Do you think he saw other girls?
I know he saw other girls. Well, he lived his...
I know he saw other girls, but they were not inseparable. Come on. In the first year, they were together a lot, every day, most of the first year. But after that, Elvis, it's a complicated story. There's a lot more factors to it. But Elvis and Linda were both seeing other people. Do we agree with that? Eventually, it was like an open relationship. Do we accept that? Put it in the comments. Were they having an open relationship after the first year? I'd like to know. Some of you say that that Linda was seeing one of the band members. Is that true? Let's keep going, guys.
You mentioned you were there at so many of those performances we've just been watching. What was that like for you as his wife, watching the women going completely and utterly crazy for your husband?
I always looked down off for the pretty ones because the D would always put the pretty girls, really pretty girls, all in the two front rows. But yes, but yeah, that was part of the deal, And Elvis used to always say he wanted the pretty girls there to have someone to react to because they were the ones that would go crazy.
But they all wanted to kiss him, touch him.
They all did. Even
and I'm
the
a very
older
jealous
women.
woman. I would find that hard. Did you find that hard?
Yeah, it was difficult, but of course that's part of the show, and the fans loved it. And Elvis loved to tease very much so. He would see somebody pretty, and he'd pretend to go up there and kiss somebody else. He had a great sense of humor. He loved playing with the audience, and he was brilliant at it.
And Priscilla Presley, can I ask you, did you kiss anybody else? Priscilla Presley, can I ask you, did you have lovers? Were you unfaithful? Was there anything you did to Elvis that he wouldn't like? How many divorce settlements did you have? How much money did you get? Did you abandon your daughter, Lisa Marie Presley, and put her in Scientology? See, this is the problem, guys. We've got all the interviews, and she tries to play the victim. Oh, poor me. All the girls were after Elvis, and he would have to kiss them whilst he was performing his tour, so that he could bring money home, so he could pay hundreds of people their wages, so he could give Priscilla a life like royalty, like the Kennedys, so he could pay for Priscilla's lifestyle. Poor me, Priscilla. Oh no, look what I went through. Girls fancied Elvis. Come on, guys. She was also up to no good. That's the truth of it, guys. She's admitted it in her book. She ran off with Mike Stone, the karate champion. There's possibility that this happened with other men. Everything I say is for entertainment purposes, just an opinion. not a fact. We're just having a discussion. But you get what I'm saying, guys.
We had rented the mayor's house of Fort Hood and at some exorbitant price. That's when Red came back, and Vernon was fooling around with 2 or 3 different women then, remember? And Elvis had come back from the post. You or I, either one, would cover for him. Look, he said, you know, he got mad at me one day. He called me in the living room and he said, you are lying to me. I said, about what? He said, Daddy. And I said, what about him? He said, see, you're lying right now. And I said, I'm not lying to you. He said, yeah, you are. He said, he's fooling around with some women. And I said, yeah, you know, and he got really upset about it. And I said, Elvis, I said, you know, come on. I mean, the guy's, he said, well, I didn't expect him to start fooling around with somebody this quick. And when Elvis and his daddy fought, it was really bad. And Gladys and him getting a fight, it was different. But boy, when Vernon and Elvis getting a fight, it was one of those bad, because Vernon had a very sharp tongue. And he could...
He had his own ego, too. Buddy.
Yes, sirree. And when they got in an argument, I mean, boy, you cleared, the place cleared real fast because, you know, it was dangerous.
Do you know what? Vernon had a really sharp tongue. Lamar Fike, one of the writers of this disgusting trash book, who was involved in the disgusting documentaries All the King's Men and True Hollywood and other things as well. You have got a very sharp tongue. You have got a very sharp tongue. The things that Lamar Fike has said concerning Elvis, his so-called very close friend, who he knew in the 1950s. Elvis did so much for Lamar Fike. Elvis was so good to Lamar Fike, gave him a beautiful life. You're the one with the sharp tongue, my friend. You are. I know you've passed away, but come on. Fair's fair.
There were so many people mourning in front of me, fainting. His body was in the house for 3 days, and there was something very oddly comforting about that, which made it not necessarily real for me, as I stayed in there with it almost the whole time. We can stop.
We were devastated.
I can't say it. I miss him. And when he died, a part of me died.
All the cards and letters that you have sent since the passing away of my son, Elvis, have been a great help to me and the family during this time of grief.
So I remember putting these clips together. Each one took 3 or 4 hours, guys. These took a lot of work to make, so I'm very proud of them. These were made before I was defending Elvis, yeah? But I was just trying to tell the story. But the truth is, it is said there that the parents of Priscilla were devastated. But they did go on to watch Priscilla do the second divorce settlement, which I think was devastating. Just how cruel that second divorce settlement was, that Priscilla was not entitled to, in my opinion. They also knew, the parents of Priscilla also knew, Priscilla was unfaithful with the dance instructor, with Mike Stone, the karate champion. Much more went on behind the scenes than the public knew. So when these interviews were going on, there was another story that the public needed to know. Elvis looks like the bad guy. Priscilla looks like, oh, look what I went through. But the truth is, there is a dark truth to all of this, in my opinion, for entertainment purposes. Obviously, the footage of the funeral, when it was announced that Elvis died, it's just so upsetting. But do you see what I mean now by fake news? The world is given a fake truth by the parents of Priscilla, by Priscilla. But who is the victim? Poor Elvis. Poor Elvis. What did Elvis go through at the end of his life in 1977? Being hammered with a second divorce settlement, which was still going on. The book, Elvis, What Happened, came out weeks before Elvis passed. Obviously, yeah? Red West, Sunny West, Dave Hebler. The amount of money that Priscilla was demanding just before Elvis died She'd even taken out a lien, a charge, a deed of trust, a debt on Graceland to guarantee she gets her money in installments because Elvis couldn't afford to pay her the amount of money she was demanding with her lawyers. This was all going on to the day Elvis died. So Priscilla goes, oh, we were better apart. We were still in love. I want, he's the love of my life. I want to be buried next to him. But look at the chaos that went on in the last year of his life at the hands of Priscilla. The parents knew what was going on, Priscilla's parents. You get my point, guys? It's complicated and very unfair. And this is why we are called Defending Elvis.
You know, they were still trying to live a single life. And Elvis was trying to, have a family life. He wanted the best of both worlds.
Can't have that.
Not when you're married.
True that he didn't sleep till very late.
He had a very hard time sleeping.
What brooded him? What got him?
Let me just put that. She says it. He had a very hard time sleeping. Now remember, sleep deprivation causes massive illnesses. Imagine the hell that Elvis went through. A man that was overworked with serious health problems and he couldn't sleep. Get it? 2-3 concerts a day. But there's no mention of why he was on the prescription medication, on so much of it. Maybe abused it, maybe took too many. But he did need it. That man needed his sleep. He had a hard time sleeping, Priscilla's own words. And then you have the pain he was in, the discomfort, then the fact that he needed to get up and perform and be Elvis Presley. So many thousands of people relying on him to do those concerts and in the 60s to make those movies. But he couldn't sleep, guys. So then people moan that he took sleeping tablets, he took painkillers, he took sedatives, he took uppers. Could you imagine the pressure that man was under?
With Colonel Parker, did you ever make peace with him?
I did. There was two colonels. There was the colonel who was the manager, and there's colonel that was, very, very sweet and very, very nice. I mean, he took care of both his wives, the first one who passed away. He was always there for her, and also his second wife as well. I had dinner with them, and actually Elvis did too, in Palm Springs. And so there was two sides to him, the business and, of course, the very gentle side of where he's not working and not, doing anything in show business, I should say. But yes, there was two sides to him. And he was actually, I think it was more, he had to live out what Elvis wanted to do, or he promised Elvis, and that was he was going to make him $1 million. And he wanted to live up to what he promised Elvis.
So, so the views on Colonel Tom Parker are complicated. She's clearly liked Colonel Tom Parker. I've always thought Colonel Tom Parker was a big part of the reason Elvis got married to Priscilla. I think a lot of people pressured Elvis into marrying Priscilla, and I think Colonel Tom Parker, even Vernon, and even the parents of Priscilla twisted Elvis's arm into a marriage that he didn't really want, that he wasn't ready for, he felt wasn't right for him. I do think that Colonel Tom Parker had his uses in the early years, but once we get into the 60s, I personally think Colonel Tom Parker was very bad for Elvis. The idea of getting him into Vegas was good in the early years when he first started in Vegas in 69, 70, 71. But that wore thin. Some people say Colonel Tom Parker's gambling debts is the reason that the Vegas years carried on for so long. And we know that Elvis, in the latter part of the 70s, the Vegas years were very, very strenuous for Elvis. And he had got fed up with it. He was tired of the Vegas years. He loved the early Vegas years. The later Vegas years, it's clear to see, especially in 75, 6 and 7, he didn't really want to be there, did he, guys? That's just my opinion. But no surprise that Priscilla liked Colonel Tom Parker.
when people come to Memphis because they come to see Graceland, is there another spot? I know you guys spent so much time here, but is there a spot around the city that people have to check out too, or that you love
Oh my
to go
gosh!
see?
Well, we go to Malcolm Theater all the time. The Orpheus we also went to at times. You know, oh my gosh, Malco Theater, Memphian, Crystal's hamburgers. I don't know, is Crystal still there? I don't know if it is or not. But
Crystal's was your spot?
Yeah, well, it wasn't our spot. That's where we order hamburgers from, because it was very small hamburgers.
Right.
And when we were sitting in the movie theater, the one that he would rent, Memphian, the hamburgers were so small, because he didn't like big things to eat. So that comes to mind.
That's your favorite. Is there?
Right, guys, we've been on for 45 minutes on, this is Elvis Presley Long Lost Footage. We're all going to jump over to Defending Elvis. We're all going to jump over to Defending Elvis. Are we agreed? We're all going to jump over to Defending Elvis. 1 minute. 1 minute. I'll see you there, guys. Thank you for joining me. I've quite enjoyed this in the middle of cooking my wife's food.